that's the high sign, the go signal. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai la lai, yai la lai, yai la lai, yai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai la lai, yai la lai, yai la lai, yai la lai 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 lai. Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom to you. I'm looking at a camera, at a little tiny camera that's going out to people on Zoom and on our live stream. Welcome. Welcome to Congregation Beth Emek, wherever you might be. We're glad you're here. You're with us right here on our courtyard, on this gorgeous, incredible courtyard, on a gorgeous, incredible Friday evening. It's great. It's interesting, you know, congregations all around the country are doing what we're doing now. They're all starting to open up a little bit. People are coming back together to worship together, many for the first time in over a year. Congregations in places like this that are fortunate enough to be outdoors, they're doing just what we're doing. And also figuring out how to do it like we are, with the stumbling over the tech and stuff and figuring stuff out. We never had to do this before, but here we are. It really is good to be together. It feels different than all those months and months of worshiping online, just online. Now we're kind of worshiping in multiple dimensions. This kind of physical dimension and an internet dimension and a spiritual dimension all at the same time. We're all part of the same community. So I'm glad you're here. We want to celebrate Shabbat together. We're going to begin our celebration by lighting Shabbat candles. The candles will be lit by tomorrow morning's bar mitzvah, Ben Jakubowitz, and along with his parents, Doron and Bridget, and his sister, Jory. Now, I invite you to turn to page 3, and if you're watching online, go to our website, bethemek.org, and under virtual resources, you'll find a link to our prayer book. And the prayer book is called Mishkan Tefillah. Open up our prayer book, follow along with all of our prayers and our songs. So, Bridget, I'm going to ask you to use the microphone here so people can hear you. Okay?
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As our brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
It's a little tricky lighting candles outdoors. It's very windy. Those of you who are watching online, you may not see the wind, but boy, I know you can hear it. I know it's coming through that microphone.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. Those of you who are watching online, you can see it's like wide, the camera like wides out to catch us and then goes back in and goes back out. I hope it's not making you dizzy. What you don't see is the off-camera stage manager directing what's going on up here. Thank God for stage managers, oh my gosh. Page 6 in the prayer book, Claire Moran is going to lead us in our next prayer. Claire, come on.
We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now, we in our turn come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak. Let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer.
Thank you, Claire. Page 10. It's a beautiful song of longing for God, Yedid Nefesh, heart's delight. Yedid Nefesh av harakamah, Yedid Nefesh av harakamah, Meshochav Decha El Ritzonecha Meshochav Decha Lai 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 El Ritzonecha Yarut Avdecha Kemo Ayah Yishtachave Lai 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 Dai 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 El Mul Hadarecha Yedid Nefesh av harakamah, Yedid Nefesh av harakamah, Meshochav Decha El Ritzonecha Meshochav Yai lai 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 Eritzonecha. To pray as a Jew involves a lot of movement. There is standing and sitting and bowing and much more. And for the call to worship the Baruch Hu, we customarily rise. But what does it mean to rise for prayer? Rising is as much a state of mind as it is a physical act. We do the same thing when we use verbs like hear, O Israel, which does not mean to hear a sound at all, but rather to listen to the meaning of what is said. So what is it to rise? This past week at the Havana Shira conference that I attended, I learned this wonderful way of thinking about how we position ourselves for Baruch Hu. We rise with intention. That does not mean for everybody standing up on your feet, any more than what we mean when we say, I see what you're saying, which doesn't mean that we see with our eyes at all. We all stand for many things. We need not always stand physically to stand up for people, to stand for an idea, to stand for justice, or for God. And so this evening when we come to Baruch Hu, which is going to come up after Chatzi Kaddish, after Ben leads us in the next prayer in Chatzi Kaddish, we go right into Baruch Hu. I'll invite you to rise with intention. Stand on your feet, if you will, or if you're more comfortable remaining seated, stand with your heart and rise with intention. We continue now with Chatzi Kaddish on page 26. One second. Let me just get this out of the way there. 1 second, Ben. And now it seems.
Yikra vikra shmei rabba.
Amen.
Balma divrach hirte v'amlich mochute. V'chaye choluvion mechon. Ufaye deko beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala. Uvizman kariv. V'imeru.
Amen.
Yeshmei rabba mevorach. Leolam lo me'el mayach. Yibarach. Yibrach v'ishtabach v'pa'ar v'traman v'tnaseh v'tadar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudasha le'elan minko birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imeru.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. You may be seated. Page 31.
Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim.
Thank you, Janelle. Page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. Baruch Shem Kivod, Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Moed. Baruch Shem Kivod, Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Moed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Page 36. Yai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, lai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. יאי לי, יאי לי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, לי לי לי, יאי לי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי. והיו הדברים, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך. יאי לי, יאי לי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, לי לי לי, יאי לי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בו בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבת על מזוזות ביתך, על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. יאי לי, יאי לי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, לי לי לי, יאי לי לי לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי. La 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 la. Let's continue on page 43. Martha Tukowski is going to lead us here.
Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapares sukkot shalom, aleinu v'akol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
I'm violating the rule that says you can't go backwards in the prayer book. You know that rule? Page 42, top of the page. This is the Hebrew setting for the creative prayer that we just heard read to us. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Ushmor tzeiteinu uvoeinu lechayim ushalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamideinu shomreinu lechayim. Page 45.
We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time.
Thank you, Janet. I invite you to rise with intention. Page 46. Adonai, Sifatai tiftach, ufi yagita hilatecha. Adonai, Sifatai tiftach, ufi yagita hilatecha. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Adonai, Sifatai tiftach, ufi yagitei latecha. Adonai, Sifatai tiftach, ufi yagitei latecha. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vikonei Hakol, Vizocher Chastei Avot Vimahot, Umevi Gula Lifnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Biava, Melech Hoser Umoshia Umagen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Ata Rav LeHoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Gevurot, Umida Melach, Melech Memid, Umechayeh, Umatzviach Yeshua, V'nemana Talachayot HaKol, Baruch Ata Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Ata Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yehalalucha Selah, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. There's so much to look at when you're sitting outside for worship. There are all kinds of things that fly by, things that you catch out of the corner of your eye. You go, what was that? That doesn't happen when you're sitting in your living room watching service. It doesn't even happen in the sanctuary so much. It's unique praying out here. I've been watching stuff outside in our garden. I've been watching the lettuce start to get bigger, ready to eat some lettuce, and watching the peas fill out on their vines. Those of you who are watching, I know you can't see it. You're hearing a plane overhead. I know how distracting that is. Plane, yes. Let it go by. You know, every bit of gardening suggests something else going on beneath the surface. When we pray, we are engaged in a kind of gardening. I want to ask you to reflect on that, and in a moment, respond after I share this gentle, slowly paced poem by Marge Piercy, entitled The Seven of Pentacles. Under a sky the color of pea soup, she is looking at her work growing away there, actively, thickly, like grapevines or pole beans, as things grow in the real world, slowly enough. If you tend them properly, if you mulch, if you water, if you provide birds that eat insects a home and winter food, if the sun shines and you pick off caterpillars, if the praying mantis comes and the ladybugs and the bees, then the plants flourish, but at their own internal clock. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses, live a life you can endure, make love that is loving, keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, a thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always, for every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. So here we are in this garden of prayer out here. That's what it is, a garden of prayer. The connections are made slowly. I learned this from Reverend Cameron Trimble. Transformation moves at the speed of trust. Transformation moves at the speed of trust. So what are the connections that are happening here under the surface that we don't see? Please take a moment. Turn around and share with someone other than the person you came here with. Wait, did I just ask you to talk during services? Yes, I did. It's really easier than you might imagine. What are the connections that are happening here under the surface that we don't see? And if you're watching on Zoom, let's share those thoughts with one another in chat. I want to see you share with me in chat. I'm looking, and with one another. Go ahead. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Page 62. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bim. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Well, I hope you built up a little bit of that web of mycelium. Is that what it's called? You know, beneath the surface. At this time, we ask for healing for members of our congregation and their loved ones who are ill. We want to share their names with one another across two different spaces. One is this physical space here on the courtyard, and the other is the online space that is shared by those participating in the service from home. We may not hear or see the names of all of one another's loved ones, but our prayers are united. Are you praying for healing of body or spirit for a loved one? For those of you on Zoom, please share the names of those for whom you are praying in the chat. For those of you on the courtyard, please speak the names of those for whom you are praying out loud as my eyes pass yours.
Michael Krilutsky.
Norton Townsend.
Jeff Perlman.
Hannah Pierce.
O God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to our dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked with theirs. May you bring healing to all who are afflicted by the pandemic of our time, and may you protect all those who labor on their behalf. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, God, the source of healing, and let us say together, Amen. Well, follow my notes here. It might seem a bit incongruous to do board installation on the Shabbat of Parshat Korach. The story of Korach is actually about a battle over leadership. It is a glimpse into the story of the Israelites precisely at the moment when everything seems to fall apart. Sometimes things fall apart, not because of fighting and a struggle over leadership, but simply because of the hand we are dealt. So I'd like to interpret Korach as the story not of interpersonal struggle, but a struggle to find our truest identity as a community. Not to be misled, not to get waylaid by the distracting difficulties we have stumbled over. After all, who wants to pick up the reins of leadership in the midst of a pandemic? That feels like a hand we'd rather fold. Guess what? We are so much more than that. Every one of these board members assuming their positions this year, the new ones and the ones who have been through this year of Zoom purgatory, every one of them are healers and repairers of what is broken. There's a piece of the Korach story that is easily overlooked, which Ben is going to read to us tomorrow morning. You see, after the revolt is over, after the damage is done, the high priest Aaron takes the fire pans of the rivals and turns them into something holy. They are repurposed as a shining metal plating for the altar. Aaron takes the remnants of strife and transforms them into something bright and redemptive. We are going to look at this past year as a time that tested our mettle, so to speak. And out of all that we have learned, the leaders for this new year will fashion a more brilliant congregation. A congregation made strong by the commitment we feel toward one another, like that web beneath the surface that we just talked about. As Moses said to Joshua, Chazak ve'amatz, be strong and courageous. We have a shining year ahead of us. And so now I would like to ask all of our new and continuing board members who are present here to rise, and those of you board members online, watching online, please rise. As I offer a prayer on your behalf, I'm going to ask Max Norman, our incoming president of Congregation Beth Emek, to come forward and take the Torah from the ark. The Torah teaches, then the Eternal said to Moses, gather for me 70 of Israel's elders, of whom you have experience as elders and officers of the people, and bring them to the tent of meeting, and let them take their place with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will draw upon the Spirit that is on you and put it upon them. They shall share the burden of the people with you, and you shall not bear it alone. You stand here in our open-air tent of meeting to draw upon the spirit of our ancestors. They shared the burden of leadership, and now you take upon yourselves this responsibility which has been handed down to you. We know that the task is sacred, and that the positions of leadership you are about to assume are an honor and a privilege. May all your actions as directors of this congregation be worthy of the trust that has been placed in you. May you be blessed with clear vision and wise judgment. May your term of service to this congregation deepen the spiritual dimension of your own lives, bringing you into partnership, not only with one another, but with the Holy One. As the psalmist said, unless the Eternal One builds this house, its builders labor in vain. And now, I ask you to recite your pledge of commitment. Max is going to lead, and you please, those of you board members, please join in with him. Max, do you want to step up there?
I would love to. I faithfully pledge to fulfill all the duties and responsibilities which pertain to my position as a member of the Board of Directors of Congregation Beth Emek. Through my service, may I help to advance the ideals of Judaism and strengthen the fellowship of our congregation. I devote myself to this task.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achayanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this season. Amen. Let's take the Torah, place it back in the ark. Yeah, so it's back. There we go. Will you please join me in wishing our new continuing board members a hearty mazel tov. Mazel tov. You may be seated. Wow. Off to a good start. Claire Moran, who is just now finishing a very long term of service to the congregation, has on the board of directors, she's not done with her service congregation, on the board of directors, this past term, past president, has announcements for us tonight. Claire.
Yes, it's very strange not to have to remember to unmute. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi Milder, for leading us in worship, and thanks to all the congregants who helped lead the service. I'd also like to thank our tech mensches for doing the behind-the-scenes work for this service to be live streamed. Every Friday night in June at 7:30, we will hold our Shabbat service here outside. Advanced registration is required. Tomorrow morning at 10:30, our Shabbat service will be led in great part by Ben Jakubowicz, who is becoming bar mitzvah, and you can watch the live stream on our website. There will be a Shabbat morning service every Saturday in June. All Friday night and Saturday morning services will continue to be available online to ensure they are accessible to all. This Sunday morning, Torah study will meet online at 9 and will continue to meet on Sunday mornings through June. Also on Sunday from 5 to 7 p.m., you are invited to the Community Pride Seder, a ritual that chronicles the liberation of LGBTQ people, much like the Passover Seder, which retells the story of the liberation of the Jewish people. This virtual event is led by Shar Zahav. At 7 p.m. on Sunday, we will have a program, Life in Washington, D.C., an evening with Charles and Debbie Ball. The Balls have returned to the Tri-Valley after over 2 years, in the Washington, D.C. area. They were transferred to D.C. for their jobs in national security. We will share an evening on Zoom with them to welcome them back and to hear about their experiences of work and life back east. Beth Emick has been an active participant in the Interfaith Backpack Project for over 25 years. Please consider a contribution of $40 to provide quality school supplies for disadvantaged students in Livermore. Donations are needed now, so the materials will be ready for late summer delivery. Registration is open for the 2021-22 school year at Beth Emick Preschool. There's also registration for URJ Camp Newman in Santa Rosa. Sessions are filling fast. For additional information, all links, visit our website, bethemick.org, or this week's Once Around Beth Emick. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, Claire.
Super.
We're going to continue our service now on page 282 with Aleinu. I invite you to rise. We're going to sing the Aleinu that's at the top of the page. It's the alternative text of Aleinu here. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עזו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אינו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. הקדוש ברוך הוא. You may be seated. Let's continue on page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech. May we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. before we conclude our worship, we call to mind loved ones with whom we traveled on the path of life. Those who died in recent days and those who died at this season in years past continue to influence us in the choices we make and in the way we show our love and compassion for one another. The company of this holy congregation brings us comfort in this moment of memory. As we recite Kaddish, we sense that we are linked in a common expression of support to all who mourn in our community, together with those who mourn everywhere during these difficult days. This evening, we remember those whose yahrzeit occurred during the past week. We observe yahrzeit for Rose Berman, Hannah Felder, Mary Jane Nichols, Marvin Shapiro, and Bertha Zamchek. And we pray together with those observing the first year of mourning. Zichronam livracha. May the memories of our loved ones be a blessing. I invite you to rise and join me in Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah ba'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudishah b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechmata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramah. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. Now, following our closing song, we're going to conclude with Kiddush and Motzi. And we'll have some trays of juice and wine that we'll be able to pass around to you. How about that? For closing song, let's see here. We're going to sing Adon Olam, page 321. 321. There we go. Yeah. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chemtzo Asay Malek Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chemtzo Asay Malek Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Yeh B'tifara. Why don't we pass those, while we sing, why don't we pass those around so everybody gets it? V'hu echad v'yein sheni lehamshilo lehachbira b'li reshit b'li tachlit lo haoz v'hamisa v'hu eli v'chai goali v'tzor chevli v'eit tzara v'hu nitzi v'manos not consider your nekra. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chemtzo Asay Malek Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Ben, why don't you come on up and join me up here? Biyado of Kid Ruchi, Be'eti Shan Be'ayira, Be'iruchi, don't I leave it low, you know. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra, Le'yet Nasam Dechem Sol, Asayim Alekshin Mo Nikra, B'yacharei Hikmot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Behu Haya, Behu Yeveti Farah. And we're gonna take those Kiddush cups. Let's see, one of these fine, one of these. Which one's which? Janelle, which one's which?
Oh, the larger one is yours.
Okay, there you go. Two-fisted, there we go. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivadu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodecha b'yava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat L'chaim. Okay, challah, let's bring that challah over here. Then I got motzi right there. So why don't you put the cups down on that table, and you can uncover the challah, and there is motzi right there, okay? And first grab the challah, you're gonna take the cover off, and why don't you pick up the challah itself? Just take it off the tray, okay? And go ahead, you lead us.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Why don't you get back to your family, okay? Your family can share that challah. And Jakubovitz will see you in the morning. Shabbat shalom. Oh, no, we don't. We're not doing that. Oh, okay. We can save that. Shabbat shalom, Susie.
You need to know about this setup for July 9th?
Pardon me, let me put my mask on.
Or, no, another time we can do that.
No, actually, you're fine. I already went over it with Jason and Jay.
Oh, okay.
All you're going to use is one microphone.
Okay.
They'll bring out the mic, they'll set it up, and it's one cable. Instead of all this fancy setup,
Yeah.
this one cable is going to go right in that speaker, and the speaker gets turned on, and that's all the sound you need for here.
Yeah.
This stuff you won't be able to deal with.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful.
They will do it.
I like that.
They will do it. But hopefully it'll be live streamed. That's our aim, is to get that live stream
working. Might not
working.
be or something?
What?
It might not be?
It's scary. Every week every single week we have had challenges. They've been live streamed, it worked.
Yeah.
But it was not without challenges.
Okay.
So what that means is you and who you partner with.